Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We are live from YouTube at Desawe Kanda, also live on TVT Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, Nigerians wait in eager anticipation of who emerges winner of the Saturday general elections. But what does it take to win elections in Nigeria? We have an extensive coverage for you. We are your election command center. Amidst all the calls for the cancellation and rejection, we'll give you details as bond holders. Also, we understand are back. But the senior high school prospectus and matters arising has become a big issue, especially for the senior high school students who are going in. Parents are concerned about some of the items on the prospectus they have received. The Ghana Education Service has been responding to that. We'll give you details of it here on Ghana Tonight. Also, today, the individual bondholder groups, 3 groups, met the finance minister. They resolved that all payments of matured bonds that have not been honored by the finance ministry should be done. We'll tell you the details of how this crucial meeting ended. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight, and we have more tonight, and stay with me. And also remember, you are an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and Twitter. Let's get talking. Well, before we go into Ghana Brief, news just come in. Argentina and Paris Saint-Germain forward Lionel Messi, as you rightly know, has been named Men's Player of the Year at the 2022 Best FIFA Awards. The 7-time Ballon d'Or winner beat French forwards Kylian Mbappe and Karim Benzema to the award. Messi, 35 years, helped Argentina to win the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, scoring 27 goals in 49 games for club and country between 2021 and 2022. The Barcelona Alexia Putellas also was named Women's Player of the Year. And guess what? At the ceremony in Paris, Lionel Scaloni, who also led Argentina to their 3rd World Cup title, was named Men's Coach of the Year. So there's a lot going on for Argentina, and indeed for you, the Lionel Messi supporters. But let's settle for Ghana Briefs. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has called for urgent steps to address the concerns over the alleged discrepancies regarding the results of the general election in Nigeria. Earlier, some opposition political parties led by the PDP and the Labour Party staged a walkout of the National Coalition Centre, accusing INEC of fraud and election rigging for the governing APC.
There was no overvoting in the Ekiti state. We presented the hard copies of the total number of registered voters in Nigeria on state-by-state basis and the number of PVCs collected.
The first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joe Osewusu, says it is good to have young people in politics and, for that matter, in Parliament, but he is worried about their intellectual and social capacity to be public officers. He urged the political parties to pay more attention to their caliber.
The level of decorum I observed when I joined in and what I observed today is a vast difference. If you ask me, it is a bad reflection of young people coming to the chamber. I'm afraid that if we don't curb it now, in the next 2-3 more parliaments, we will not have a parliament. We'll have a boxing ring.
The Ghana Education Service has failed to provide a supposed approved standardized prospectus for fresh senior high school students, but insists heads of the schools must not use an approved prospectus. The service has served notice it will investigate and sanction heads who flout the directive. Cassandra Chumampofo is Public Relations Officer of the GES.
Yesterday's statement was to caution the heads that were going contrary to what we had discussed, because you realize that some were adding markers, A4 sheets, some have mosquito coils, some have what we call capitals and all of that, which I do not know, on their prospectus. For us, it was really worrying.
Leadership of the three individual bondholder groups stormed the Finance Ministry earlier today to demand answers why their matured bonds have not been paid as promised by government. They were assured again the payments of coupon and principals of old bonds will resume by March 13.
Tomorrow being 1 week since the revised settlement date, we found it quite improper that there's been no communication about payment. From our perspective, what typically will be done is that the day that you are using as a benchmark, you should be announcing to investors what the payment plan is.
Earlier today, Christian Achu's family paid a visit to President Akufo-Addo at the Jubilee House. The president commended GFA Chief Keto Kreko and the ministry for their involvement since Christian Achu's untimely death.
You've done well to organize this visit and generally to stay on top of this whole situation. I have to congratulate you on that. We have the last and critical hurdle to overcome, but we'll work together to make sure that that is done appropriately.
Petrol and diesel prices are expected to drop between 3% and 4% from Wednesday, according to the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC. The chamber, however, explains that the expected reduction has nothing to do with the Go for Oil program, but a drop in the price of commodities on the international market. However, LPG prices are expected to go up by 6%.
Well, Nigerians are so frustrated about the lack of naira in the system 3 days after they have gone to the polls. Well, the situation remains the same. You can see the long queues over there, people queuing to get naira. Many have gone days without even a single naira. Frustrating it has been, and many think that it's about time that urgently the central bank does something about this. These are the views they've been expressing.
What sense does this make? How can you enact a law without awareness? All of a sudden, you jump to the street and start collecting people money, holding on to it, and you're not releasing the money anymore.
Since yesterday, they just carry us come make us homeless. Since yesterday, 4 o'clock, we never talk. They gave us smarts by 4:30. I believe INEC made provision for all these things. They just come and suffer us. See people with first class yesterday lying down like see they never. I pity people yesterday. We never talk, oh, we never talk. We came to serve INEC, no food since yesterday. No allowance, allowance never since yesterday. Allowance, what they tell us. We use in the cashless policy, we do transfer a boat. I used 2,000 naira come here. My last card, I never see job. Till now, they don't give me food, nothing. This country, it's not good though.
Well, that's an INEC polling station officer in Nigeria complaining about they hadn't eaten since morning. That the time my colleague Komla Kluche, who is there for us, by the way, stationed in Lagos together with a team, a strong election command team there in Lagos and Abuja, that we are focusing on what's happening in the Nigerian elections. Before we spoke to him, it was around 10 a.m., saying that all of them, the INEC officials who were supposed to man polling stations, had not eaten as at the time. This is very common, isn't it, with elections on the continent? At least Ghana, we can speak to that, where in some instances at polling stations, it is political parties that sometimes send food to electoral commission officials who are manning polling stations. What will happen if somebody feeds you? They say the person controls your conscience, is it not? So you expect that these electoral commission officials would still be professional and not allow themselves to be influenced by the person who has given them food? These are lessons we're watching and how things are playing out. Okay? And these are some of the issues that have dotted the Nigerian elections over the period, at least since Saturday, as we monitored from our strong room in Abuja, manned by Komla Kluchi and the team. INEC officers complaining of hunger, network challenges, and you'll see some of the videos we'll play to you later. Late arrival of electoral materials, which is very common with us as well in many cases. Allegations of vote buying. Eligible voters disenfranchised. You recall that polls closed at 2 p.m. Nigerian time, which is 3 p.m. Ghana time. And so a number of people couldn't vote, even though they were eligible to do so. And then the allegations of rigging, which has been dominant today as we're covering the elections there. In fact, 10 out of the 18 presidential candidates, representatives, walked out of the National Coalition Center in Nigeria because of these allegations of rigging by INEC. What's the real issue there? The issue of dispute, that the reason why they walked out. 176,846 polling stations results are counted manually and relayed electronically to the Independent National Electoral Commission's headquarters in Abuja, and eventually posted on their website. Now, the issue of concern is that a number of states' results were actually announced by INEC, but were not posted on the website. So then the political parties are asking questions as to why, if the process, the electoral process says this has to be done, why this particular step of being posted on the website was skipped by INEC. They're still asking questions. In fact, His Excellency Olusegun Obasanjo has also joined in the calls to have the results cancelled entirely. We'll see how Nigeria balances the cost of doing that plus ensuring the sanctity of the process. But really, what does it take to win the presidential election in Nigeria? Because here in Ghana, we know that 50+1, whoever wins, must win the majority of the total votes cast. That's 50+1. But in the case of Nigeria, the dynamics are quite different. As a matter of fact, take a look at this. The eventual winner must have majority of the votes cast and get at least 25% of the vote in at least 66% of the 36 Nigerian states. Plus, that person must win a federal territory, in this case, Abuja, right? Stay with me. We have a private legal practitioner who is also a constitutional lawyer joining us from Nigeria, specifically Lagos. He's going to be joining us live on Ghana Tonight to explain this for you, the benefit of you, our viewers, to understand what this really means. They get majority votes, get 25% of the votes in at least 66% of the 36 Nigerian states, plus winning a federal territory, in this case Abuja. We'll get into that. But there are many issues of concern to the Nigerian people that has underlined the reasons and the decisions they took to vote. Unemployment, number one. And I'll tell you why unemployment is the big issue there for them. The second is corruption. Third, insecurity, because increasing kidnap cases in almost all the states in Nigeria. Education. In fact, a number of people haven't been to school because the teacher unions there have been on strike for a while. The economy and public debt as well. These are issues that we're very familiar with in this country, and I'm sure clearly they are going to also be the reasons why we're going to vote, okay? So we in Nigeria are familiar in many, many ways. Look at the population of Nigeria, and you understand why unemployment is the big issue for them. 0 to 17 years, 107 million out of the almost 300 million population. Then you have 18 to 35 years, 59 million. So this 59 million constitutes some of the first-time voters as well. Then you have 36 to 53 years, 32 million. 54 to 71 years, 13 million. And then 72 years to 89 years, 3 million. So you have the number of the presidential candidates actually falling between the 54 to 71. All of them are within the 54 to 71 year bracket, right? And then you have 72 to 89 years, 3 million. 90 plus is under 300,000, right? That's the population breakdown, as you see. This is actually, the source is the United Nations Population Division 2022 as published by the BBC. But also, why unemployment is a big deal is this. Look at the Nigerian unemployment rate per this particular graph that you see. In 2010, it was about 5%, right? It's gone up. It went up in 2012 to 11%, came down a bit to 10. Take a look at this. Between 2018 and 2022, it's 33%, right? That's a big deal. And that's why you see a lot of young people having that as the #1 reason why they took decisions to vote, right? And then you look at the issues of insecurity and public debt. Public debt is one of the reasons why Nigerians took the decision to vote. Look at this. As of September 2022, the public debt of Nigeria was $102 billion, right? Up from 2012, $49 billion. In fact, when President Muhammadu Buhari took over in his first term on the 29th of May 2015, it was around almost 51 billion. Now it's gone up to 102 billion. We're talking about this country where we're dealing with debt over 500 billion cedis. So you see that we have relatable issues with the happenings in Nigeria. Stay with me. Right after this quick break, a lawyer, private legal practitioner, it's a constitutional lawyer in Nigeria, will be joining us to explain the dynamics of their presidential election. And then we'll have a political analyst as well joining us from Nigeria for a conversation. Stay with me on Ghana Tonight. We'll be back shortly.
David, aha me jine, a Franco Trading Enterprise at Dabraka branch. About phones near accessories, and in your make a win dia. When you say Franco Trading Enterprise, a #1. Your television set from 24 inches to 65 inches, air conditioned from 1.5 horsepower to 2.5 horsepower. Your CCTV cameras, Bluetooth speakers, your phone covers, protectors, pen drive, hard drive, iPhone, Samsung, Infinite, Huawei. It's a full beer open with Yasima Fanebia. Pura Franco Trading Enterprise. Franco Trading Enterprise. Phones papa, television papa, air conditions papa, accessories papa nina.
Headache? Toothache? Pains? Worry no more. Introducing Alteco Cooling Patch. Aches and pains are things of the past. With Alteco Cooling Patch by your side, all you have to do is to gently take out the patch from the sachet and place on the portion that aches, and in a few minutes you have your relief. Alteco Cooling Patch is not suitable for children below 1 year. Available in Ecos Pharmacy, Farmer George Outlet, Chaska Pharmacy at Shaiman, Jamie Hatch Pharmacy at Denta, and the Palace Mall. For bulk purchase, call 0243 148469. Want relief from aches and pains? It's Alteco Cooling Patch. Grab yours now. This advert is FDA approved.
Let's go. Go back. Come quick. Kubani.
3FM Gobe Festival.
Gobe Festival.
Gobe Festival.
Gobe.
3FM. Gobe.
Gobe. Gobe. Go 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 go. Gobe. It's Gobe.
Gobe Festival.
His investigative piece on the horrifying state of Ghana's morgues caught the public eye. This time around, he's taking us to the cemeteries.
This is a human skull.
The image of neglect is camouflaged by the scenery.
This you can see right here is a human womb.
Sunken graves.
Oh my, the grave just caved in. Can you imagine?
The abandonment here is glaring. Health experts are troubled.
Somebody is not doing his or her duty. It's not supposed to be like that.
Journey with Godwin Asediba as he reveals a heart-wrenching story on Ghana's creepiest cemeteries. Is the dead truly resting in peace or in pieces?
No Rest in Peace, showing March 1 at 9 p.m. on TV3, TV3 Ghana across social media and 3news.com.
I think the problem is coming from, the beavers. Since yesterday it has not been working. It's just showing please wait. When you on it, it doesn't work. So I don't know the problem. We are still here trying to make it work. That's what
You've been here since yesterday?
Yesterday, as early as 4 p.m. yesterday, we have been here.
And what did INEC give you guys? I hear they just gave you mats, they didn't give you food, there was nothing?
They didn't give us snacks, they didn't give us, even the mat, they gave us around 3 a.m. It was, I won't go into it because now I'm experienced to experience again because the thing was really terrible. We have been here starved, no water, nothing. And again, this early morning, beavers is not working. How are we going to now go to our polling unit and vote? Some coppers now have like registered voter of 4,000 and the time is delaying. How can we get there on time and still vote?
Do you intend to speak to me? You are here to go to your place to start the voting.
Yes.
Of course, you've wasted the time, isn't it?
Yes, I've wasted the time. We're supposed to be in our polling unit by 8:30. By now, this is 8:41. So we're unable to get our beavers and other materials. But now, just now that I got the beaver. So I'm about to go to my polling unit now.
But have you checked it? Is it working?
Yeah, I've checked my own. It's working, but the other is having issues, and they are trying to restore it.
The process is not transparent. The process is not credible. INEC is not sincere. INEC is colluding with the APC to defraud Nigerians. We want to see the results that were uploaded on the portal as against the manual collation that is presented by the collation officers from the state. It shows some foul play, and we insisted that should be done, and INEC chairman categorically told us that he's not going to do it, and they have refused to do it. So because of that, we are staging a walkout, and we are calling for a complete cancellation of the whole process.
I mean, for how long are you going to stay out?
We are staying out for as long as it takes. We are saying that the process must be cancelled.
Are you not worried that even as you stay out, he continues to do the coalition that he's doing? I mean, this does not inure to the benefit of you. It doesn't
matter what is just, and what is unjust is unjust. The way forward is outright cancellation. And our staging a walkout already have given a dent to the credibility of the process. So what we are telling our voters and supporters is that the umpire have taken side.
So, right from the beginning of the process, as you saw the INEC officials complaining about the BV machines not working and some of them also not responding to network connectivity, to today, where you saw the PDP representative together with 9 other representatives of political parties in the National Coalition Center in Nigeria, staging a walkout, accusing the INEC of bias and rigging. But what does it really take to win the presidential elections in Nigeria? And as I showed you earlier, what the electoral rules say and what the Constitution says, the Nigerian Constitution says about how many votes one has to get to be declared winner of the presidential election. Let's go on to Zoom now, and I've been joined from Lagos by lawyer Nelson Ekujumi. That's lawyer Akin Omaside. Lawyer Akin Omaside is a private legal practitioner joining us from Lagos, Nigeria. Lawyer Akin Omaside, thank you so much for joining us on Ghana Tonight. First of all, with how things are playing out and the kind of reactions that we've seen from the various representatives of the parties, let's establish what exactly does the Constitution say about requirements of who has to go through to be declared as the winner of this presidential election in Nigeria? What does the Constitution say?
Well, there are two provisions. There is the Electoral Act, which governs the provisions for whoever is elected, and then there is also the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and it talks about winning in 25 of the states, including the Federal Capital Territory, and winning 25% in those states. So it's a 2/3 majority of the states in Nigeria. So even though you have the 2/3 majority of the states in Nigeria, whoever has that 2/3 must also have the Federal Capital Territory added to it. So even if you have, for instance, the number of states we have in Nigeria, 36, you have to win 2/3 of those states. Even if you win 2/3 of all the states and the candidate does not win in the Federal Capital Territory, that is Abuja, then that candidate will not have what we call the national spread.
I see. But so let's do the maths here. So out of the 36 states, what number of states represents the 2/3? And then also this federal territory that you talk about?
As I said, it is, I said 25. 24 states plus the Federal Capital Territory, so 25. If you use the Federal Capital Territory as a state, but the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, is not a state. So you have 24 states, and then you have the Federal Capital Territory.
Okay, explain to me what the Federal Capital Territory of Abuja means and why that is classified as a standalone.
Yes, the Federal Capital Territory, the FCT, which of course is also known as Abuja.
But if someone wins 24 states but loses in Abuja, which is the Federal Capital Territory that you describe, then what happens?
Then the provision says we have what is almost called like a rerun for that particular FCT. Just like it's similar to what happened in 1983 when the leader of the Unity Party of Nigeria was said to have won enough states. But the question now turned on the fact that can you have 2/3 of a state? And the Supreme Court of Nigeria stated then that a state cannot be divided into 2/3. So a constitutional issue came about, and they said if you've not won that 2/3, then it couldn't have been decided that the candidate had won. So what will happen in that scenario that you are talking about is we'll look at who has come second, and then there's an aggregation that the INEC will do, and there will be a rerun, as it were, between the first and the second. And this issue that you are bringing up has generated a lot of controversy amongst lawyers, amongst political analysts, amongst politicians as well, that, okay, what about a situation where we've had almost equal number of votes? It is not by popular vote in Nigeria, but what will be the situation? And this is something that the law is not totally clear on it, and it has agitated the minds of a lot of the practitioners, the politicians, the lawyers, the political analysts, even the government officials, the INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission as well. Because before, what we used to have in Nigeria was almost like a two-party state, because we had two dominant parties. But this time around, we're having three parties that have shocked the electorate. For in Lagos State, for instance, the usual party that was expected to win has lost out. And this has also happened in other places where the results have been counted. So we're all waiting to see what will happen, whether we're going to have a rerun between the first and the second, and see who now enjoys a clear majority.
In fact, it is that development that you make reference to. That's why I asked this question. So it was predicted widely or expected that a certain political party will win Lagos. That's not happened. Peter Obi has upset all the polls. So if it happens that another candidate other than the person who wins the 2/3 actually wins Abuja, which you have described as the federal state, or the federal capital for that matter, would the Supreme Court, in some instances, step in? Has it happened in the past before?
Well, the Supreme Court we might have a constitutional challenge on our hands at the end of the day. But considering the maturity that Nigerians have developed so far in the democracy we've had since 1999, I don't think we will go to the Supreme Court. And I say this with all sense of responsibility for the following reasons. There's a lot of tension in the country presently. Don't forget that this is just the presidential elections. In 2 weeks' time, there'll be the gubernatorial elections to elect governors into the states. Because of the tension that is being generated in the country presently, there's been outbreaks and pockets of violence in some states based on ethnic lines or clan lines. I don't think that any of the political leaders, the presidential candidates, will want to put Nigeria on the tenterhooks, will want to keep us on hold and allow what could fester to continue. So maybe what we are likely to have will be the one that has won enough or that has garnered enough votes nationally will be considered to that particular party. Because when we go to the courts, one party will lose, one party will win. And that will be on record that you went to court and you lost, or your victory is one declared by the courts. This is the office of the president of Nigeria, and the security and safety of Nigerians has remained paramount to what our presidential candidates have been talking about. If you look at the situation in 2015, when President Goodluck Jonathan was voted out of office, he made a comment, and till date he's been respected for that. He said his comment of any of the results is not worth the lives or the blood of Nigerians. And he considered defeat to President Muhammadu Buhari. Don't also forget that even though the results might be challenged, what we may have will be challenged to the results in individual states. And that we can break down to the granular details of not just individual states, but individual local governments. And the process, there's also a time span to carry out all this process. And again, I mentioned, if this is going to be the situation which could lead to violence, unrest, there's a general unrest now. For instance, the citizens are expecting that by now, majority of the results should have been declared so that we know where we are. Don't forget that in the last 6 to 8 weeks, Nigeria has been struggling as a result of the currency swap.
That's right.
That was done to put a stop to vote buying. So there's a lot of tension in the polity, in the society.
Lawyer Omorside, hold on a bit for me. Let me bring in Nelson Kujumi. He's the executive director of the Center for Social and Economic Rights, an election observer group based in Nigeria. Thank you, Nelson Kujumi, for staying up this late to join us on Ghana Tonight. But you've been on the ground. What's your general assessment of the happenings and what lawyer made mention about the violence in some of these the polling stations, as was earlier reported?
It was peaceful and credible in view of the fact that in most of the polling stations, the electorates were able to exercise their franchise, save in some few places where we had issues of beavers breaches, as well as the umpire arriving late. But by and large, in the places where the electoral umpire personnel and the materials arrived late, they ensured that all the persons on the queue who came out to vote were able to exercise their franchise. And in places where there were disruptions, they made sure that the election was scheduled for the next day and the people performed their franchise. So generally, the election was free, fair, successful, and credible.
But the coalition process has been dotted with a lot of controversy. As a matter of fact, we've seen 10 out of 18 of the representatives of presidential candidates in the National Coalition Center walk out about allegations of rigging against the INEC. Now, so you are there as well, observing the coalition process. From the observer point of view, what has happened?
Oh, the coalition process is going on according to the laid down rules in the Electoral Act, which is the Bible guiding the conduct of elections. We have seen some drama by opposition political parties who are grandstanding and playing to the gallery just to undermine the credibility of the process, because the law states that election results will be declared at the polling stations, from the polling stations where we have the electorates, the observers, the party agents, the electoral umpire, as well as security operatives. And when elections are conducted at that level, the results are entered into a form called Form EC8A, which all the party agents are expected to sign, including security operatives, as well as the INEC presiding polling officer. From that, after the results have been signed by all these parties.
But I see, but just on that particular note, because of the concerns that you raise about what could possibly affect the integrity of the elections, we've monitored cases of violence, destruction of ballot boxes, and even reported cases of deaths by INEC itself. How would all these instances impact on the credibility or the integrity of the entire process?
Thank you very much. The Nigerian Electoral Act stipulates that election must be conducted in substantial compliance with the provisions of the law. The law did not say total compliance, because the law recognizes that elections is going to be conducted by human beings. So it gave room for margin of errors. If we have had 176,000, about 500 plus, over 176,000 polling units, and there's cases of violence in less than 200 polling units. Do the mathematics yourself. Will 200 units be enough to taint the integrity of a process that was successfully conducted in 176,000, because the total polling unit is 176,000 plus. I can't remember the figure, maybe 800 now. And the electoral violence has occurred in maybe 200 to 300. Will that figure be enough to undermine the process? Absolutely not. And even at places where electoral violence took place, the Electoral Commission rescheduled the election in 141 polling stations in Bayelsa State for the next day. And it took place likewise in some other locations where elections were unable to hold. So if we are talking about areas where ballot boxes were snatched, where Beaver's machine, you recollect that Beaver's machine was stolen in about 3 states, in a location, but INEC was able to recover it, and they continued with the process.
Right.
So we don't expect to conduct a perfect election because we are human beings. No human being can be perfect.
But
and
anyway,
there's no perfect system anywhere in the world, except we want to deceive ourselves. The election has been conducted in substantial compliance. The law made mention of substantial. The law recognized that, and not total compliance. If it was total, even if there's a glitch somewhere, then the election becomes invalid.
Mr. Kujimi, thank you for, I think, the point well made there. But finally, to you, lawyer Akin Omisade. So we're looking at possible scenarios. If there's a possible runoff, which I have seen some others also putting out that opinion. I know since you got into the multi-party democracy, Nigeria hasn't had a runoff elections before. Okay, but from where you sit, is there a possibility? And if there is, what does the law say about a runoff situation?
Well, the law, if there's the possibility of a runoff, which I personally don't think will happen, because another reason why I don't think we will have a runoff is the citizens are tired. We have been stretched. And to go through the process of, there'll be some form of campaign, there'll be us going to vote again, considering all the challenges that we experience with the voting process this time, I don't think Nigeria is ready for a runoff. Financially, we are not ready. Psychologically, I don't think Nigerians are ready. This year has been quite a tough year. And if there's going to be a runoff, then it has to be done, it will be conducted similarly by the Electoral Commission. And that means everybody goes back to the polling booths again. And in the light of the challenges faced at the polling booths, polling units this time around, really, do we want to go through that? Or rather say, okay, if the volume of the challenges is worth just accepting, I think the other leaders will concede defeat and allow peace to reign.
Lawyer, thank you very much for your time on Ghana Tonight. Akin Omisade is a private legal practitioner based in Lagos and is a constitutional lawyer as well, getting us into the understanding of what the Constitution and the electoral laws of Nigeria says about the presidential election. I appreciate your time. Now, back home, in fact, just to let you know that we remain your election command center. My colleague Komla Kluchi and the team are still in Abuja, our own command center there, monitoring the happenings in the Nigeria election. So stay with us right till the end. We'll be updating you every step of the way. But the Ghana Education Service has cautioned heads of senior high schools to desist from selling items on prospectus to Form 1 students who report to their schools for admission. Now, it also noted that some heads are selling free items that are supplied by government to the students under this free senior high school program. Cassandra Chumampofo speaks for the GS. Take a look at this.
Yesterday's statement was to caution the heads that were going contrary to what we had discussed, because you realize that some were adding Markers, A4 sheets, some have mosquito coils, some have what we call capitals and all of that, which I do not know, on their prospectus. For us, it was really worrying. And so we had to issue that caution to let them know that that wasn't what we agreed on. Because of the peculiarities and, communities differ. Greater Accra has its own harmonized prospectus. Ashanti has same, and so they know. Because the CHAS, that is the heads themselves plus the executives and the regional directors came together to put together the items that are needed on the prospectus. So we feel that is what they should go by.
I see. But you see, that's Cassandra Chumampofo. But the concern there is, what is the approved prospectus by the GES? Can we have a copy of it so that we can all see and compare to what parents are being given now? Because we've been speaking to some of the heads of schools, and they are saying that because government disbursement or allocations to them take so long, they have to find a way. Kofi Asari is the Executive Director of Africa Education Watch. Kofi, thank you so much for joining us on Ghana Tonight. Now, while we go on, we'll put copies of the prospectus as we have received from some of you parents on the screen. But, Kofi, you know this and how things are played out. Does the GES have any real point to the effect that because there's an approved list, they expect the heads of schools to abide by it? The heads of schools are also taking advantage of the weaknesses in the system to get parents to buy items that they are not supposed to.
We have observed that most of the head teachers we spoke to indicated that because government was not releasing administrative grants meant for running the schools on time, it was impossible to run the schools without asking the students to provide the items that government administrative grant would have been used to purchase. So they find themselves in a very, very tight corner where without students bringing sanitation equipment, maintenance items, and then also items needed for examination, it will be difficult to run the schools since government administrative grants always delays, sometimes close to a year. So that has been their side of the story. I think they have a point because they are concerned about not shutting down the schools, but running the schools, even in the midst of, very, very poor budget execution, delayed disbursement of approved funds, which has been one of the major, characteristics of the system for running the free senior high school. But be that as it may, you can't break the law to uphold the law. And I believe that once policy says that government is taking care of the cost of sanitation, maintenance, and examination, through which examination fees, sanitation fees, and maintenance fees are part of the free senior high school fees that government is absorbing for every child, it amounts to duplication. If you ask the child to bring weedicide, you ask the child to bring car duster, you ask the child, to bring akeshan, and all this stuff that ordinarily would have been procured with government administrative grants if the grants came earlier.
I see.
The question is this. So after students buy electric bulbs, after students buy mosquito spray, after students buy all this stuff that we are mentioning, what do the schools use the administrative grant for after government has released them, albeit much later? What are they used for?
And that's the critical question there, Kofi. So how can this issue of the delayed grants, which is largely to blame, at least from our interactions with the heads of schools, for this situation be dealt with so that these head teachers will not also now find ways of passing on the cost of these items that government is supposed to be giving them onto parents because the money they need doesn't come in early?
All we should do is that the heads of senior high schools, CHAS, will have to find a different solution to this problem. An honest discussion with government about how the delays in the release of administrative grants affecting the running of schools must take place between the two parties. If CHAS will have to we'll have to let government appreciate that if those items have to be credited, the prices will be higher. And for that matter, they will require more money. That must be so. If CHAS will have to let government appreciate that they will take loans, and indeed some of the headmasters confirm to us that they actually borrow money to finance examination and other stuff. Fine. If that's the case, and for that reason, government must increase their administrative funding, that can be discussed with government. I think that a solution to a delayed disbursement of approved budgetary allocation is not shifting the cost to parents. That is not part of the solution at all. So CHAS should have a discussion with government about how to have advances ahead of school reopening, when it comes to the administrative grants. Beyond that, the GES have seen a circular being issued, warning headmasters about, the use of unapproved prospectus. Let me indicate that this doesn't start today, but I'll give it to the GES because it is under a new leadership. But I want to see a much more proactive GES where, when it's obvious that approved prospectus are not being respected by some school heads, the GES should grab the hip.
I see. So, in fact, we have gone beyond what the GES said to demand a copy of the prospectus. They said approved prospectus that they are saying that they have. But the explanation is that it is region-based. Every region has their own peculiarities. So what the prospectus of an Accra-based school, like Accra Academy, would be different from what, let's say, another school, boys' school in Cape Coast, for instance, or Prempeh College would have. Have you, in your working life as a CSO in the education space, seen the approved list of prospectus by GES?
We haven't come across anything like an approved prospectus. But you see, the GES, as I keep saying, is an institution in transition. And in their transition, they must move much faster. The GES is transitioning from a traditional, conservative institution that is, more prone, that is more susceptible to withholding information than divulging information to the citizenry. The GES is migrating from this to an era of open access to information, full disclosure and limited non-disclosure. That is the direction that all public service institutions are supposed to travel in this age of right to information. So I do not understand why the GES still sees it as a big deal to publish what it calls its own approved prospectus for the attention of parents. I don't see why it is a big deal. So what should we go and do in the regions? I mean, let's come on. We need to be proactive.
Indeed, and it's that proactivity that we're asking that it should be done. And in fact, Kofi, thank you so much. Kofi Osari, Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch. A number of you parents have been sharing with us your concerns, and we put this out on social media earlier. Many of you sharing with us what you have been told to buy by the schools. We have here, this one here from Amable Ernest says 4 liters of 4 liters Azar emulsion paint sealing brush, shoe brush, washing powder, Dettol, Akasha, all these things for school. This one here says this is even more than 4,000 cedis. Those are the many of you. And then some of you also sharing down the list with us where you see something they call Capito, 4 sachets, and then liquid soap. And then we also have cutlass of a particular brand and mop bucket. Car duster is also there as well. And then we have, wow. So many of them. Indeed, that's what you find there on the screen. Quite a number. Well, and then for you parents, continue to share your thoughts with us on this one while we continue to ask all the critical questions of the GES. Earlier today, the individual bondholders met government. Why? Lawyer Martin Pebo is a leader of one of 3 individual bondholder groups. He's joining us. Thank you so much, lawyer, for joining us on Ghana Tonight. What did you conclude on with the finance minister at the meeting earlier today?
Yeah, so earlier today at around 1-something p.m., the finance minister finally made time to see us. When I say us, the 3 individual bondholder associations came together. So we went together as a group to see him. So that is to say the Pensioners Association, the Individual Bondholders Forum, and then the Individual Bondholders Association of Ghana, IBAC. So all these 3 organizations, we went with our reps together as one collaborating unit to see the finance minister. So in the meeting, he indicated that government is finding it difficult to get money, but they are doing their best, and that we should go. They would issue a statement. Of course, he orally assured us that they were going to pay by 13th of March. Yes. But the way the final statement is couched, it kind of leaves a lot of things unresolved.
Right.
So you see that it says government will resume payment by the 13th of March.
Okay.
So it means that, yes, they can start a few days before 13th of March. But the key thing is that it doesn't mean that on the 13th of March, everybody who is owed money will be paid. As we speak now, government owes quite a number. Some of the bonds matured. It's not just one tranche. Some matured on the 6th of February. They've not been paid. Then there's 13th of February, not paid. Then 20th of February, you see. So the concern is that just saying we will resume by the 13th doesn't resolve all the questions. It doesn't say that on the 13th of March, everybody will be paid. So quite clearly, what you can see happening is that this is a window that has been opened so that on the 13th, some people will be paid, and then others will be told to wait much longer. So that is where the problem is. By the statement, it doesn't commit to paying everybody who is due money on the 13th. And that is our cry, that is our pain, because look, our members have modeled their lives on the coupons and the principal. So that's a people plan, knowing that on the 6th of February, a lot of our members were expectant that their bonds were going to mature, government was going to pay, and then they would use this money to pay school fees, pay other bills, water, rent,
and all those,
electricity, all the other bills.
But did you seek clarification from the minister about this?
No. So the statement is what is being put out there. So we need some clarification. So we will meet as a collective and see how to go seek further clarifications. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner, leader of one of 3 individual bondholder groups. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. On behalf of the team, I appreciate your company. Have a good night. I am Alfred Ocansey.